The story is The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry, written in 1905. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man until one's cheeks burned with shame. 3 times Della counted it, $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but to flop down on the shabby little couch and sob. So Della did. When Della had finished her cry and she attended to her cheeks with the powder rag, she had been saving every penny she could for months. But expenses had been greater than calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim, her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning something nice for him, something fine and rare and sterling, something being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a mirror between the windows of the room. Suddenly she whirled and stood before the mirror. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now, there were 2 possessions in the house in which they both took mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window someday to dry, just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels. So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and almost made itself a garment for her. And then she did it up again, quickly and nervously. Once she faltered for a moment and stood still while a tear or 2 splashed on the worn red rug. On went her old brown jacket, on went her old brown hat. With a whirl of skirts, she fluttered out the door and down the stairs to the street. Where she stopped, the sign said, Madame Sofroni, hair goods of all kinds. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair, said Madame. Take your hat off and let's have a sight of a look at it. Down rippled the brown cascade. $20, said Madame. Give it to me quick, said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hash metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It had surely been made for Jim and no one else. There was nothing like it in any of the other stores. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone, not ornamentation. It was worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew it must be Jim's. $21 they took from her, and she hurried home with 87 cents. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out the curling irons and lighted the gas and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny clothesline curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully, critically. At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and hot and ready to put the top. Then we heard Jim's step on the stair way down on the first flight, and she turned white and flushed and moved. She had the habit of singing little silent prayers about simple, everyday things, and now door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and serious. He stopped just inside the door. His eyes were fixed on Della. He stared simply at her with a peculiar expression on his face. Della went to him. "Oh, Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You know it grows fast. You don't mind, do you? I just had to do it. Say Merry Christmas. Jim, let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I have for you." "You cut off your hair?" Jim asked. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well anyway? I'm me without my hair, aren't I?" Jim looked around the room curiously. "You say your hair is gone?" "You needn't look for it," said Della. "It's sold, I tell you. Sold and gone too. It's Christmas Eve. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered, but no one could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?" Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He folded his arms around his Della. Then Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it on the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dell," he said, "about me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut that could make me love my girl less. But if you'll unwrap the package, you may see why you had me going a while there at first." White fingers tore at the string in the paper, then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the full employment of all the comforting powers of the Lord of the class. For there lay the combs, the set of combs, side and back, that Dell had worshipped for long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoiseshell, with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear with the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive, she knew, in her heart, and simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers. But the tresses that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with a smile and say, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." Oh, but Jim had not yet seen his present. She held it out eagerly to him. The precious metal seemed to flash with the reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. "Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead, Jim sat down on the couch and smiled. "Dell," he said, "let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. And now you suppose you might put those chops on?" The Magi, as you know, were wise men who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere, they are wisest. They are the Magi.